This Power Rangers Beast Morphers episode review is intended for and targeted to adult fans of the series.
Since we can dedicate some time to the Rangers in Zords dealing with that situation. My favorite kind of blooper. The one where I was right. Hard to believe, guys. 6 years, over 6 years. Made a lot of videos in this room. Super Mega Force, both seasons of Ninja Steel, both seasons of Dino Charge, first season of Beast Morphers, some of the second season, comic books. Just, it's been a lot. It's been quite a ride.
Yeah, I gotta say I'll miss this place. We made a lot of memories here. It's not like we're leaving town, we're just changing rooms in the house. Nah, you don't get it, Bolts. The heart of the matter is a matter of the heart. This place was just special.
Yeah, I have to agree. Change is good, of course. I'm excited about that, but just... I always like the color of the walls in here for obvious reasons. Welcome to another Power Rangers Beast Morphers 2.0 episode review. Hello there, heroes. I'm the Orange Ranger, and welcome to another comically long review. Alright, I think I'm ready. How about we go make a video in our new studio? Hello there, heroes. I'm the Orange Ranger, and welcome to another Power Rangers Beast Morphers 2.0 episode review. Now, you may have noticed that something has changed. New location, new set. I got so bored during this whole shelter-at-home thing that I decided, you know what? Let's change rooms. Welcome to the brand new ORV HQ. I'm not quite settled in yet, so the set may change a little bit, but we've got a brand new episode of Beast Morphers 2.0 to look at, so there's no time to waste. Let's take a look at the 6th episode, The Blame Game. But before we get started, the Blaze Megazord over here wanted me to ask you folks to please make sure you're subscribed to my channel to see all of my videos and to ring that bell, get your notifications set up so you get notified of whenever I post brand new videos. And the legendary Megazord over here is the Treasurer, so they wanted me to ask you folks to consider donating financially to my channel by checking out my Patreon or Ko-fi. Alright, let's get to the episode. The Rangers are playing football in the park when Steel sees a little girl with her father on a park bench. She takes the wrapper off of a sandwich and just throws it onto the ground. When the father sees this, he tells the little girl to pick it up and to pick up 3 additional pieces of trash. Steel thinks this is a very mean father, but the Rangers explain the concept of punishment to teach lessons, aka discipline. Over in the crystal-like dimension, Blaze and Roxy bring Scrozzle a hand puppet that he asked for. They bring it to him in a little shopping bag. Did they just go and pick one up from the store? Anyway, Evox demands that they get to work capturing the Gold Ranger, and from the puppet, Scrozzle creates Controlatron. Okay, I'm calling a double naming foul here. Number 1, the unnecessary vowel. Why not just Controltron instead of Controlatron? And by the way, it's not Controllertron. I've seen the name written down. Secondly, why don't you just call it Puppetron? Ben and Betty have just about gotten to the point where I have to mention them just to talk about how terrible their scenes are. The two of them are outside Grid Battle Force cleaning up leaves. Ben comments that their leaf blower really seems to suck. Maybe that's because it's a vacuum, not a leaf blower. I mean, come on, this writes itself if you just notice that it's a vacuum. Hey, our vacuum sucks. No, wait, it doesn't. But that means it does, right? Who hasn't made that joke about a vacuum cleaner? Anyway, Betty pulls a bottle of Morph-X out of her pocket because sure, let's just carry around explosive chemicals in our pockets.
What has it got in its pockets?
She pours some into the gas tank, despite Ben specifically pointing out this machine is not designed to run on Morph-X. It sucks up a pile of leaves, and then an entire tree, exploding the bag.
Well, that was pointless.
Back over to the relevant plot. The Rangers are walking back into Grid Battle Force when Steel notices the security guard wave a worker with a box through. He calls the worker out, stating that the regulations say that everybody and every box must be scanned. The worker, whose name is Cole and whose face you might recognize as Levi Stalker from Super Ninja Steel, says that he waved the worker through because she works there and the box is just her lunch, which she opens to prove. Steel accepts the part about the worker, but says regulations specifically state that any package entering Grid Battle Force has to be scanned. Cole apologizes, but Steel is on his discipline kick, so he orders Cole out to the plaza to sweep up as a punishment. The others think this is a little harsh, though staying in character, Robbie does say, hey, rules are rules, Steel is right. But Cole accepts the punishment, saying that just working at Grid Battle Force is a dream come true. The Robos and Controllatron, still hate that name, arrive at Grid Battle Force. Controllatron has made a puppet that will control Nate as soon as he touches it, as well as another puppet that looks just like Cole to get the first puppet inside the building. And that's where this kind of breaks down. I do get making a puppet to get someone to take the package inside to Nate, but the fact that the puppet looks just like Cole is a coincidence that is never explained. What, did they know he was going to be working?
Get on with it!
Get 6 feet away from this house, MPG. Anyway, Blaze sneaks the puppet and the package up to the outdoor plaza without anybody seeing him, because apparently Ben and Betty can't even pay attention properly. Cole sees the puppet and grabs it, taken control of by Controllatron. Now, weirdly, another security worker has taken over the checkpoint and doesn't check Cole's box. Keep that in mind for later on. In the lab, Nate is working on a gigantic bow when Cole walks in with the package for Nate. He opens it, finds the puppet and holds it, and gets taken control of. Steel meets the other Rangers, save Nate of course, at the Riptide Gym and tells them how he's been touring Grid Battle Force enacting a little discipline. Workers driving a cart too fast indoors? Clean the toilets. A worker had her shoes untied? Clean my Zord. I mean, to be fair, it was a little bit dusty after not getting used last week. A waiter brings them their drinks, and Steel notices that the waiter is chewing gum. Steel makes the waiter spit out the gum and starts to give him a punishment in an establishment where he has zero authority, unless, as I theorized earlier, Grid Battle Force runs the Riptide Gym, but Devin tells the waiter not to worry about it. The Rangers tell Steel off for going a bit crazy with all the discipline, but Steel says he's just teaching good lessons. Commander Shaw calls the Rangers and says that there's a Robotron behind Grid Battle Force. Okay, this is kind of a minor thing to point out, but this is the second time this season in just 6 episodes that they've used the behind the Grid Battle Force location, and the third time overall. Budget running a little thin at this point? She says Nate is not answering his communicator, but when the Rangers get there, they see Nate, already morphed, walk out and meet the Robotron. Controllatron has the Gold Ranger attack his unmorphed friends. They try to hold Nate back, and Zoe screams, "Don't hurt him!"
Shut up!
Zoe, listen, I understand that you have feelings for Nate, but he's morphed, and you all aren't. He's not the one you need to be worrying about here. The Rangers realize that the puppet is controlling Nate, and they morph themselves. Nate does his best Blaze, screaming for Tronics, and the fight begins. It's an original footage fight on the Grid Battle Force set, and I thought it was pretty good. The Rangers handle the Tronics pretty easily, but can't get through to Nate, and the two of them teleport back to the Crystal Dimension. In the Evil Lair, Evox explains what he needed the Gold Ranger for. Kind of. Not exactly. So Evox wanted Nate to complete the programming on a special project. Now, here's another wobble, because the Robotron is in control of Nate's body, but is it controlling Nate's mind? It feels like saying that my hands wrote this review. Yes, they pressed the keys, but really it was my mind that had the steering wheel. Nate finishes the programming, and Evox proves what a wonderful boss he is by berating Blaze and Roxy for another failure. Despite the fact that they've done nothing in this episode except get Scrozzle the puppet that he asked for, which means that was a success, which made all of this possible. Ebok sees this part of the plan as complete now, saying that now Nate can just help them destroy the other Rangers. Despite at least the slight possibility that Nate would be able to summon the Mantis Zord, Scrozzle says it's time for 2 Gigadrones. Steel drags Cole in to see Commander Shaw, even as some of the other Rangers say that it might not be entirely necessary. In the lab, Steel tells Shaw that there's surveillance footage that shows that Cole brought a box into Grid Battle Force without having it inspected, and that box held the puppet that took control of Nate. Cole says that he has no memory of this. It's like his mind is foggy. Steele says that this is the second time that Cole has violated the package inspection rule, so he's fired. Zoe says that's a bit much, but Shaw says no. Cole violated the rules multiple times and endangered a Ranger. He's out. Nothing about this makes any sense. Cole's package not getting inspected was the fault of the officer on duty, not his fault. Steele didn't try to punish the girl with the lunchbox, right? And how is it possible that it didn't occur to anyone in this room when dealing with a situation where a Ranger is under mind control that Cole may have also have been under mind control, especially when he says he doesn't remember this happening? I'm sorry to steal another cutaway gag from Linkara, but there's none other that does this justice.
It just raises too many questions.
The alarms go off, 2 Gigadrones inbound. Shaw sends Steele, Zoe, and Ravi to go handle that situation, calling Devin and asking where he is. Devin is still behind Grid Battle Force looking for Nate because Betty mentioned to him in the hallway that she thought she saw him back there. Not exactly a reliable tip, but let's just roll with it. Shaw just leaves him to this. Sure, let's not have Steel go look for Nate while the Beast X Megazord handles these 2 Gigadrones. That's just crazy talk. There's a quick scene of Cole leaving Grid Battle Force with poignant, sad music playing. Thanks for that. Back to the plot. Devin declares that Nate isn't actually there and calls in to report. However, Nate is there, coming out of hiding, and going to attack Devin in the back with his striker saber. This is where Cole leaving the building becomes relevant. Thank goodness that he got fired so he could save Devin's life by warning him. The 2 Rangers morph, and this time it's Nate that uses the wrong morpher at the wrist. Give me a break. I was all set to give them credit for Steel actually using the right morpher when he morphed without Nate earlier in this episode. Just what is going on here with this? At this point, I'm starting to wonder if the actors ever realized this was happening. I can't speak for anybody else, but if I were acting on the show as a Ranger, I would be so psyched about my morpher, looking at it like a lot of Hollywood actors that have been in Star Wars look at their lightsaber, that if the director asked me to use the wrong morpher or the wrong morpher motion, I'd raise a hand about that. Yes, I do realize that Nate is holding a sword, so holding his striker morpher would be tricky, but come on, he can just put the sword in the hammer space. We all know that. An epic battle of the Red and Gold Rangers. The fight Controllatron says it's been waiting for. They slash at each other twice, and we cut to Zord footage. Okay, interesting choice. So, it turns out the reason Commander Shaw was okay with sending 3 Zords to fight 2 Gigadrones is that she was actually sending 4 Zords to fight 2 Gigadrones. Steel is somehow controlling both the Scarab and Mantis Zords in the Striker Megazord formation. Is this a thing? Can he do that? I find myself wondering why they didn't have Ravi pilot the Mantis Zord and have Smash just control himself. So, one of the Gigadrones that they're fighting is Digidrone, the Gigadrone that we didn't get last week. I would be more than fine with that, really thrilled actually, if they had just bothered to have Scrozzle mention that he saved that data and was using it now. Single line establishment, like I say all the time. Instead, this is just a Gigadrone that looks this way because of reasons. The Rangers here are doing pretty well, so let's get back to Nate and Devin. Their fight moves over into Sentai Footage Plaza, with Nate quickly getting the upper hand, knocking Devin down. Devin tries to get through to him, but it's not working, and Nate goes in for the attack. But then Devin suddenly comes back, disarming Nate and getting a lot of kicks and punches in. Man, this fight suddenly got exciting and intense. Let's get back to the Zord footage. The Zord Rangers are pushing Digidrone around when all of a sudden, Control-a-Drone shows up behind the Gorilla Zord taking control of it. Ravi and Smash are powerless as the Gorilla Zord just starts beating up the Striker Megazord, helped out by the two Robotrons. Oh, how the turntables! What's gonna happen next? Let's get back to Nate and Devin. As the two of them keep fighting, Controllatron pops out from behind a pillar to do some more direct puppeteering, reminding Devin that the puppet is what's controlling Nate. So he charges at Nate, but then turns and throws his saber at the puppet, destroying it. Nate is freed, and Devin goes Beast X mode, blocking a fire kick from the monster and then destroying it with that fire ring trick he does. The Gorilla Zord is just wailing on the Striker Megazord, but then Zoe gets back from her coffee run or whatever it is she was doing and blasts the two Robotrons, destroying the puppet. Devin then shows up and the Rangers now form the Beast X Megazord, though I have to say it was nice to see that footage. It's been a while. And Nate takes control of the Mantis Zord for all that's apparently worth. Now let's face it, we've gotten a lot more Zord footage in this episode than we're accustomed to, so they go straight to their finishers. Back in the lab, Nate apologizes for all the trouble, which wasn't actually his fault, but as we're going to see, that is a theme of this scene. He says that he can't remember anything that happened while he was under mind control. His mind is blank and foggy. Steele realizes that is precisely what Cole said, and just now puts together that Cole was under mind control as well, realizing he's made a huge mistake. Shaw asks him how he's going to make it right. They head outside where Ben and Betty are planting a tree to replace the one that they shredded, using an ultra fertilizer to make the tree grow faster. One drop on the seed turns it into a sapling. Can I get some of that from my Animal Crossing island? I've got some orange trees that need to grow faster. When everyone comes outside, the two of them snap to attention, knocking the bottle over onto the tree. Listen, at the end of the episode, the tree grows into a full-size tree, meaning the two of them kind of accidentally succeeded at exactly what they were trying to accomplish, and they get stuck up high in its branches. Ben asks if they can get a little help, to which my response is a resounding no, so let's just get to the moral of the day. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to have to hit this one with the moral of the day. I didn't think I would at first because it seemed like the moral was going to be a little bit more complex, but they boil it down like sugar water right at the end. Cole shows up and Steele basically gives him his job back, though again with Shaw there to make it official, saying that he made a big mistake about the whole mind control situation, and even the lunchbox thing probably wasn't all that big of a deal. Besides, everyone makes mistakes. Here's 3 more words. Let's throw shades. Episode 6, The Blame Game. Pros, more of Steele learning about humanity, interesting good versus good footage, and more Zords. Cons, the premise of the episode makes no sense, wasted moral complexity, and Ben and Betty's pointlessness. I hate to say it, heroes, but this one was a bad miss. This was, in my humble opinion, the worst episode of the season thus far. The Blame Game gets 2 shades out of 5. If anything is going to drag a bad Beast Morphers episode up from the floor, it's Steele. Steele continues his Data-like quest to learn about humanity, and those episodes always have a very genuine feel to them. The thing that a brand new mind is going to lack most is balance, nuance, and that's what we see here. Even when Steele goes too far with the discipline, it makes sense because he's just learning. It is always fun to see footage where Rangers fight Rangers, and credit to the episode for filming a lot of original footage of Nate fighting the other Rangers. And that thread continues into the Zords. It was lots of fun seeing the Gorilla Zord just wailing on the Striker Megazord, showcasing the raw power that machine has. Look at the flawless segue I just puppeted my hands into writing for me. After criticizing the episode last week for not having any Zord footage, it would be remiss of me to not praise this episode for having more than we usually get. Now, I do think there's a bit of a connection because if we didn't directly get the Zord footage from the Sentai of last week, at the very least they're related because of the carryover of Digidrone. But the Zord fight this week had the weight and meaning that I always want them to have. Maybe splitting the team up is the best way to get that done, because then we can dedicate some time to the Rangers in the Zords dealing with that situation, kind of going back and forth. Although, and call this a little subcon hidden inside of a pro, I really hated the way they kept cutting back and forth from Nate and Devin to the Zord fight. It just didn't flow well at all. And I guess this counts as another segue, because here we are at the cons. I said last week that the episode had a shaky premise. This week, forget about shaky, this premise is downright broken. Most of the plot of this episode is predicated on Cole getting fired for not inspecting the box that he brought in, when it was not his job to inspect that box. It was the guard who took over for him. Add to that the fact that it was beyond clear that Cole was under mind control, since they were dealing with Nate being under mind control, and you just have a premise that makes everyone involved look like an idiot, especially Commander Shaw, and I hate when they downplay the queen of Grid Battle Force that we all stand so hard. She's smarter than that. You know, it didn't feel like I was going to have to move the moral of the day graphic over to this set so soon, because for most of the episode, it felt like they were going for a slightly more complex moral. It felt like they were exploring the gray area between enforcing the rules and punishment for its own sake. Then we get to the end of the episode, and they boil that thing down like sugar water into 3 words: everyone makes mistakes. And that's a moral that only applies to the lunchbox situation and not the puppet box. Oh, kittens, where was I? Oh, right. I hesitate to even mention Ben and Betty because while I was watching the episode, I made a rather frustrated tweet about the two and got 3 different replies with the tired old, "It's just a kid's show. Kids find them funny. Don't get so upset about it. Why are you holding it to adult standards? Blah, 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 blah." You know, that argument that I got every single time I reviewed an episode of Ninja Steel? I have 2 responses to that. Number 1, I highly doubt that the age range of this show, which I believe to be, let's say, 6 to 11 years old, find the 2 to be all that funny. But number 2, even if they do, what frustrates me about them is how they're disconnected from the plot. Let me give you a recap of Ben and Betty's impact on the core plot of this episode. Betty told Devin that Nate was behind the building. That's it. Yes, I'm going to bring this up again. What I want from Ben and Betty is Evox's revenge. They start the episode out developing a shock zapper that is funny, haha, they got zapped and they got poofy hair, but it contributes to the plot because they're trying to help. And then they do help. They use it to defend Devin from some Tronics, and he praises them for it at the end of the episode. Sure, there's another gag with the group hug, everybody gets shocked moment, but their comedy can be stupid as long as it contributes to the plot. I think this episode is frustrating to me because it felt like it wasted a lot of potential. You had a really strong B plot with Steel learning another facet of humanity, and there was a strong A plot with a mind control story that ties into developing plot. But all of it is squandered by writing that just feels like it gets lost in the fine details, and what we got was a bit of a mess. Well, maybe lucky number 7 can pull this show out of the pit that it's landed in. Let's take a peek at the 7th episode of Beast Morphers 2.0, Beast King Rampage.
The Beast Morphers Rangers are given access to a powerful new Zord, but Evox has designs to steal it for himself.
And that is going to wrap up the first Power Rangers Beast Morphers 2.0 episode review on my brand new set. Heroes, thank you so much as always for watching. Now that the video's done, in the comments below, you can let me know what you thought of this episode, as well as my review of it, and make sure you smack that thumbs up button to let me know that you enjoyed this video. Until next time, heroes, may the power protect you. That wanted me, since it's pirate and it's treasure, it's focused on the donating. Doing that again. Anyway, Cole comes over and Blaze and something. Remember that for later. God, budget running a little thin at this point. Yep, Nate does his You know, I didn't think I was going to have to move the moral of the day graphic over to this set just yet, but I really thought they were going for a kind of complicated thing where it's the doing this take again. I felt like we were getting a more complex moral. It felt like they were going for You know, I didn't think I'd have to move the moral of the day graphic over to this set so soon, because for most of this episode, that didn't even sound right. That is going to wrap up the first Beast Morphers 2.0